What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some very key things that are coming out that are very important and why Tesla's getting a bit of a sell off right now as we got some bad news. However, despite this, I don't think it's the end of the world. And we're going to be watching to see some key supports if we could hold. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Mumu link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30, and the offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, as far as the market's going, I just want to mention that we are gapping down a bit this morning. However, it's not the end of the world because the market has not lost our critical support yet, nor has Tesla. But the reason why this is happening is because of lots of news. The first thing worth mentioning is that Tesla did not really get a good rating so far. Goldman Sachs gave them a neutral rating. They're kind of in the middle, and they cut their price targets about $320 a share. Not the best of news, at least for Tesla. They did cut their targets. They also believe that the slowing in sales is one of the reasons why they did this. They do believe there's going to be a lot of progress with FSD, and they are very excited about that, but they still think that Tesla is struggling to monetize in China. And they also think there's a lot of competition that's making things harder for them. They gave Tesla a 5th ranking on their list when it comes to their AI stocks, unfortunately. And so far, we're actually seeing a neutral rating. So they also think there's going to be difficult conditions for them with their demand still struggling with all these challenges. Once again, they have cut their targets. That's why the share price is down a bit. There's also been some good news that's come out that Tesla is potentially going to be building a new mega factory near Houston to operate a battery storage facility. That could be coming out as well. It's going to be including an over 1 million square foot building in Texas. Under the tax agreement, this would also help them receive lots of benefits. So just keep that in mind. So there is some more news about this potentially coming out. That's very interesting for how they could be expanding things in Texas. And once again, we're seeing lots of headlines still talking about their German sales, which are down 76%. That's a little bit more bad news, and it is what it is as their sales are still slumping in Europe. The share price has been dipping a bit, but we'll be watching to see if we can hold these lows. Now, as far as Donald Trump's tariffs go, just know that he did delay a lot of the tariffs on automakers that meet particular rules. And Donald Trump told us to bear with him. He knows that his tariffs are going to be having effects on the economy that could be, for the short term, a little bit more negative. When it comes to prices, how it affects demand and such. But he's saying it's going to be worth it. He's arguing that it's going to be worth it, and he had his different reasons as what he claims to do what he had to do. He's telling us to just bear with him and that it's going to be worth it. That's Donald Trump's opinion. So that's what the latest thing I heard from him, but there hasn't been much of a change so far. We're going to wait and see if we get any more pieces of relief in particular sectors for the tariffs. So far, the auto industry did get some relief yesterday, but that's pretty much it. We're still waiting to see if there's more updates. And then to add on to this, we had initial jobless claims. These numbers came out. As you guys could see, we're seeing initial jobless claims at about 221,000. That is technically below expectations. Continuing jobless claims is very close to expectations, and that's pretty much it. Nothing else is too crazy. Tomorrow is when we have some big unemployment numbers, so we'll see how that affects the markets. And then the last thing is the market made a recovery move. So what's happening is we're going to gap down when we open, which opens the doors for a big gap to fill. Donald Trump also announced the 1 month delay on tariffs for automakers. That was a big piece of news. And then he is open to more additional tariffs when it comes to his broad tariffs by April 2nd. But for now, there's a slight delay. Then we're waiting for more jobs numbers. Just keep that in mind. That's what we're essentially going to be seeing. Besides this, for earnings, we have Costco announcing earnings today. Now let's just focus on this chart. So, unfortunately for Tesla, we're losing this yellow trend line after we got that not so good rating from Goldman Sachs, and that's what's actually causing this dip so far. So, as far as we're going to be watching this support around this 270 area. If that does not hold, we're going to be at risk of returning to about 267 or so. Then we'll see if we get some kind of rebound off of that. That's where we held support yesterday. If not, if that fails us, then I'm looking for a move closer to like 262 again. So watch those supports. We have 270 to 267. If that fails us, I think we dip to about 262. If we get some kind of dip back down towards the 267s, we're going to be watching to see if we get a bounce, because here's the thing about Tesla. Even as we're dipping like this, you have to remember there's a big gap that's going to form on the daily. and that does open the doors for us to try to, fill that gap once we see this market reverse. If you look at the daily charts, we're going to likely gap all the way down here. It's just a 2% gap fill, so we could still attempt to get right back up to those highs again just a little bit later. We might see some kind of dip first before this market tries to bounce. I'll be waiting to see where Tesla basis to look for a bit more downside for now. On SPY, there's a very interesting pattern. So currently, SPY is at 575. It took a big hit overnight, but notice this trend on SPY, okay? We have this very, very interesting pattern. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit more. You guys could see that we have a tendency of dumping to about this 572 to 573 area. Then we run back up to 585. Then we dump back down, run back up, dump back down to 573, run back up to 585. Now we're dumping back down to 573. So, in my opinion, I think that this could dip a bit more. um, we're in a range right now, so we weren't ready to break out yet. We want to see confirmation of a breakout from 585 for us to really start pushing. I thought we were ready to do that soon. I did mention in my video yesterday I was anticipating that there'd be like a small dip to about 578 in consolidation and possibly a bounce. We actually dipped a little bit below that. So what I'm thinking is now when you look at the daily chart on SPY, our 200 EMA lies at 568. It's about this range right here. So I think that that is where we're going to be forming a bottom between 568 and 572. We might dip a little bit more, but as long as we don't lose 568, this could still make a full recovery because of what we're seeing from technicals and also because of other factors like that. So I'll be watching to see if we could hold this 200 EMA. So look for a potential touch of the low 570s, 572 to 576 is where I think 572 to 568, excuse me, is where we should bottom. And also just know that we might dip just a little bit more, but then every time we're hitting 570 to 573 for the last couple of days, we keep bouncing off that. So I'll be watching to see if we get a bounce from that range. Could we dip a bit more? Yes, we can, but we'll see if we bounce. On the QQQ, we're in a range right here. We could dip a little bit more as well, but just notice this on the QQQ. When we go to our 30 minutes time frame, we had this very, very nice looking inverse head and shoulders like structure. We were trying to get a bounce from here. We also haven't lost structure here at 472 yet. We're only down 1%. If we end up losing 490, I will become a lot more concerned. We might dip a little bit more, but we want to see if we could bounce off 491. If we could get a bounce here, we could attempt to see a rebound right back up. So watch 490. If that doesn't hold, then we could be revisiting these lows. So far, we're waiting to see if we could form a bottom on the QQQ. We also have our 200 EMA, which was tested many times at 490. So watch to see if you could hold that. And then also keep in mind, we're gapping down. There's going to be a big gap above that's going to form, which I think we could fill relatively soon. So keep that in mind. For the Russell 2000, we're only down 1% so far. We're going to be looking at this support right here around this 204 area. If that fails us, we have 203.5. In that range, we could be testing this before we try to bounce back up to 207. On ES, there's also a range right here. We're going to be watching to see if we could hold 5750 as our main support. And we have resistance at 5860. So watch those levels as well. On the 4-hour time frame, we also have this range to watch for. We'll have to see if we could hold this lower trend line. If this holds, we could attempt a rebound. So we're waiting to see if we could base. So I wouldn't be surprised if we retest 57.50. If we could hold this, I'm looking to see if we can make a full recovery move. We're going to be waiting for this as time goes on. For the NASDAQ or NQ, the same thing is going on. We have to watch these lows right here around the 20,250 range. We might dip towards that, but watch us if we could get a rebound in that range. As long as we don't lose 20,000, we could try to bounce. So wait and see as time goes on. For Bitcoin, we're rejecting off our 200 EMA. We're going to be watching 88,000 as support. If that fails us, we have 87,000 coming next, and we'll see if we bounce. For Nvda, we also got a rejection, so we're looking kind of weak right now. We'll see if we end up dipping towards these lows around like 110. We made a nice bounce yesterday, but now we're starting to reject. So watch this 110 area. The question is, can we make a higher low or not? If we lose this low, then we could remain bearish. But for now, I do think there might be a small dip, and we'll see if we bounce near 110. Same thing with Tesla. We're watching that 270 area, then 267 to see if those supports hold. For now, we are a little bit weak with all this bad news, but we're not dead just yet. The market is still trying to hold its support. Apple has the support way down here around 229. We'll have to see if we get some kind of rebound off of this or not. We're going to be watching to see if we can make a higher low here. So if we could try to hold like around 232, we could dip and try to bounce off this and try to push it a little bit higher. So just keep that in mind. For a few more factors, we have coin. Coin has a nice double bottom. We'll have to see if we can make a bounce here and break past 224. If that breaks, we're looking for some kind of rebound move. So just keep that in mind. For Amazon, we have a also like an inverse head and shoulders like pattern that still remains. As long as you don't lose this low right here at the low 200s, like 200 flats, this could still rebound a bit. We do like to bounce near 202, so I think we might test them. We'll see what kind of reaction we get. Microsoft has, whoops, not Microsoft, Meta has the same thing right here. This is kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. We could be dipping to this imbalance at 641. We need to reclaim 657 to bounce. This might dip a little bit more before we see some buyers defend it around 640, so just keep that in mind. Microsoft is also looking a little bit weak, but this imbalance could take us down to about 392. We're going to be watching this inverse head and shoulders. There could be a little bit of a dip here before we see some buyers defend again, so watch that very closely. As long as you don't lose these lows like around 380, we're going to be okay. I also mentioned yesterday that 400 is a tough resistance. We should be looking for some kind of dip move here, but then we could bounce, and later on down the line, we could try to break through this. As long as Google does not lose like 168, we could see a small dip to 170 before some buyers defend. So we're not dead just yet, guys. The market's not done. I also want to mention that the VIX has a giant gap now down here. So if we get a rejection on the VIX, we might return to fill that gap as the market bounces, and it's not the end of the world quite yet. We haven't lost critical support yet. I still think there's going to be a big bounce coming to the markets, but we have to wait and see how we end up reacting. So for now, yes, Tesla could dip a bit more towards that 267 area. And as long as we don't lose 262, we could attempt to bounce. So just be careful. Anyways, I thank you for listening. Have a good one. I'll be back with another update very soon, and peace out.